Okay, so today just we understand as part of the development course what exactly we are going to discuss, and also why we need to go with the development. So how to start? So starting from the basics. So what are the technologies we use for the development? So I will start from very basic, and day by day we discuss the all advanced topics. Okay. So to start with, in general, if any requirement comes, uh, especially on Salesforce platform, client provides the requirement. They don't mention that we need to do configuration or the development. We need to analyze the requirement and decide whether to configure or whether to develop based on the platform capability. Right? So 100% first we should try using the configuration. If something is not possible with the configuration, then only we need to go with the development. That is the rule. So most of the projects we follow. It's not that blindly we go with the development. Okay? So the suggested approach is going with the configuration. If it is not possible, we go with the development. So as part of the development, what exactly we need to do? Let's understand. The development platform on Salesforce, they are calling as post.com platform. Okay? So especially you don't see some location where you see post.com platform. Internally, the development environment, whatever, so we use, internally they are giving the name as post.com platform. Okay. So on this platform, so whatever the development related so logic we develop, so it support that functionality and it give the result. Okay. On this platform, first we work on developing the web pages also. So if you see, if you log into Salesforce, we see we can create the application, we can create the object, we can create the tab, and you see many screens. On click on accounts tab, you see the list of recent accounts. You can open one of the account, you can see the account record detail base. All those screens are provided by Salesforce. Right? So, but sometimes as per the client requirements, we need to develop custom web pages which are not provided by Salesforce. Okay, so as part of the development, we should develop the web pages. We develop web pages. And also, if you see any web page, right, if you give some information and click on, suppose here one of the button is there, internally they execute some business logic. Whatever the username, whatever the password I enter, internally there will be a logic. They execute the logic and they send this username and password to database and check really if that username and password exists, then only it will let us to log in. Otherwise you will see error saying invalid username or password, something like that. So internally business logic will be executed. Okay, so which we cannot see, internally it will execute. So on doing some of the operations on the web pages, so we have to execute some business logic. Right? So we also write that. Also database. Right? When I enter username and password, it will need to look into the database and validate whether the username and password present or not. So we also write the database comments. On Salesforce platform, we are like full stack developer. Full stack means UI we only develop, and business logic we only write. Database commands also we only write, right? But in other technologies like Java, if you take other technologies, Java people they only develop Java logic. UI maybe they might be having little bit knowledge, but there will be a special team for the UI development, web pages development. There will be a special team for dealing with the database. But on Salesforce platform, we do everything, but it's not much complex like those technologies. All are at medium level, so we can easily learn and work on this. Okay, so as part of this course, we are going to discuss all these web pages, business logic, and the database commands, all those things we discuss. And also sometimes we need to integrate with the other platform applications. If you take one of the clients, suppose say one of the client is using Salesforce platform for CRM. Maybe same client might be using SAP for ERP, right? Maybe Java platform for some other business module. Same client, they have applications on different platforms, but they want to establish some communication between the other platform application and Salesforce, right? They'll be coming up with such kind of requirements. Those are common requirements in most of the projects. So for that, we need to perform the integration. Integration can be achievable with web services. Okay, so mainly you see there are two types of web services: SOAP API and REST API. Okay, so we also discuss about the integration as part of this course, and also these web pages. So what are the technologies we use to develop these web pages? Right, in general, web pages can be developed with HTML. Any browser you take, browser can understand only HTML. Okay, but on Salesforce platform, they are providing a custom markup language called Visualforce. Visualforce is one of the markup language. So we use this Visualforce to develop the web pages, and internally, along with the Visualforce, we also use HTML tags. Okay, but just understand, browsers cannot understand Visualforce. Browsers can understand only HTML. But what we do, we develop the pages with Visualforce. Internally, Salesforce will convert that Visualforce into HTML and display on the browser. That is the headache of Salesforce. Okay, but so we develop with Visualforce as well as HTML. These are the technologies. And also nowadays, Salesforce, they introduced one more different framework to develop the web pages. So that is Lightning components, Lightning applications, and also nowadays again one more different framework they introduced. So that is LWC, Lightning Web Components. So these are the different frameworks. As part of this course, I will be explaining end to end about this Visualforce and the other things whatever we need. For the Lightning and the LWC, I am going to explain about the basics. Okay, basics of, if someone asks you to develop the Lightning component, basic Lightning component you should do. Or if someone asks in interviews, you can answer. So that level, I'm going to explain about these concepts. But these things in depth we discuss. Okay, and business logic, right? When you perform any operation on the UI, it executes some logic, right? So for that we need one of the programming language. In Salesforce, we use one of the programming language called Apex, like Java, .NET. Apex is one of the programming language which is based on the OOPS concepts, object-oriented programming concepts. Nowadays, all modern languages like Java, .NET, and C++, many languages. Okay, even JavaScript also supports OOPS concepts. Okay, so Apex is one of the programming language which we use, and many people ask, do I need to have programming background? As part of this course, we start from what is a program. So what is a program? Program, what will be there? So we start from there. slowly we discuss about all the advanced topics. Okay. So Apex internally, so we have Apex triggers and there are many concepts. So if you want to see the course contents, please visit my website and see all the course contents. That is about business logic. We use Apex programming language, and also we need to write database commands. Okay, so for database commands we use.
Excuse me, Srinivas.
Yeah.
So will you be covering the Lightning, like JavaScripting as well in this course? Because the Lightning Classic is Apex and Lightning is JavaScript, right?
It's not like that. In Visual Force also we use JavaScript. Okay.
Okay.
So Visual Force development also needs JavaScript. Any web page development needs JavaScript, right? Client side validation. As part of the Visual Force, we discuss about JavaScript, right? So as per the need which we use in most of the requirements, I'll explain. Okay. So this Lightning components, just understand. I'm not going to explain in depth. For this, there is a different course. I have Lightning, one more different batch. As part of that, more than 1 month, I'll take the sessions and explain end-to-end concepts. But as part of this course, admin plus development, for sure I'll explain about all the basics. And after learning the basics, you can create the Lightning component and Lightning web component, and you can also answer in the interviews. That level. Okay. Yeah, JavaScript. So based on the need, so whatever we need, so we'll discuss. Okay, so we don't use in-depth JavaScript. So while working with the Visual Force, okay, so whatever we need, I'll explain. Okay. So next, this database commands SOQL, SOSL, DML. These are the commands we use. Okay, so just these are the things at high level. These are at high level, right? Very high level. There are in-depth concepts. You can see the course contents to understand those. Okay. Now to start with, first we should know about the Apex programming language. So what is a program, right? If someone from different background, they don't know what is a program. So we should understand. So what is the program and what are the elements? Technically, what we call those things in a program. So let's understand. So for that, just I'm opening. Just I want to show you one image. Okay, so if you see this image, okay, so to understand easily, if you compare the programming language with one of the natural language, so suppose say English is one of the language. If you compare, so we can understand the terminology in program, what we call and how it is similar to that. Okay, so here left side we have English. In English, how we can form the paragraph. So in general, paragraph will form with a set of sentences. Each sentence will be formed with set of words like that, right? So multiple words. Suppose say right. Suppose I'm writing like this, right? Multiple words by combining. And also, if I don't follow the syntax, right, what will happen? If I give like this, it won't give the meaning, right? So set of words, but by following the syntax, we form the meaningful sentence. In the same way, in the programming language, everything is a token. Right? Here, everything is a word. Right? So in Apex program or in any program, everything we call as a token. Okay, but again, these words can be right. These words can be noun, pronoun, verb, right? Like that. There are different types. In the same way, tokens can be keywords, identifiers, operators, literals. Technically we call like that. Going forward, I will show. So which one we call as keyword, which one we call as identifier. But it is equivalent to what means here we call as token. Words can be noun, pronoun like that. Here it can be keywords, identifiers, operators like that. Here we follow the grammar to form the sentence. Here we follow the syntax. Instead of grammar, we call as syntax. One statement instead of sentence, here we call as statement. Okay? And also set of sentences will form the paragraph, right? So set of sentences will form the paragraph. I can write one more, right? Sentence, but while writing the multiple sentences, those sentences should be in a proper order. If you don't maintain the order, that paragraph won't give the meaning. Right? So all those sentences should be in a proper order. The same way, we include set of statements, but the statement should be in a proper order. If you follow the order as per the logic, then it will give the meaningful program. So here we say flow means we have to maintain the order for the statements whatever we define in the program. Okay, so this is just to understand the terminology. So here we call tokens and the syntax, and the set of statements will become a program, right? So like that. So what is the purpose of any program? The purpose of any program is it takes some data as input and it applies some logic on that data and give the result. Suppose calculator, I open calculator, enter some numbers and equal, right? So it will give the result, addition, subtraction, right? So internally, so any program purpose is we supply some data and so as per the logic whatever we develop, it will apply that logic and do the result. That is the purpose of the program. Now let's see, when you see any program, any language, any program, when you see, how to understand which statement is for which purpose. If you know what are the different types of statements we can see in a program, then easily while developing you can understand. Okay, now let's understand about the types of statements which we include in a program. Okay, so for that, let's types of statements. And before mentioning that, first point we learn when we start learning any programming language, so whether the programming language is case sensitive or case insensitive, right? That is the first point we learn. So here Apex is a programming language which is case insensitive. Insensitive means suppose say I'm saying sample, right? So this one I'm saying like this, right? I'm saying like this, right? So all these are same. So in Apex, so even though there is a change in the capitalization, it consider all these things as same. So like that. So Apex language is case insensitive. Okay, but other languages, Java is one of the famous languages. It is case sensitive. In Java, this is different. The below one is different. All these are different because there is a difference in the capitalization. Okay, just understand. And let's understand. I'll list out all the types of statements, and after that we'll discuss one after other. Okay. So first, memory statements, arithmetic, logical statements, and conditional statements. So looping or controlling statements, and the input output statements. So these are the possible types of statements. we see in a program. So let's see. So what is the purpose of the memory statement? So why we need memory statement, right? So the purpose of that is when we deal with any program, we deal with the data. We have to provide some data as input, right? And to store the data, it needs some memory space, right? It needs memory somewhere to store that information temporarily. Memory is needed for that purpose, and also after applying the logic to store the result, again it needs some memory, right? So for that purpose, so we use these statements. So let's define one of the memory statement. Okay, so and also while defining the memory based on the type of data we deal, right? So we might deal with the text data, number, date, currency. There are different types, and also sometimes we also deal with the files, attachments, images, notepad file, Excel file, right? So based on those, we need to allocate the memory. Okay, so blindly every time system won't allocate the same memory. So based on the data type, whatever requires only that amount of memory to allocate. In most of the programming languages, you see the data types. Okay, so here whatever I am listing, these data types are related to Apex language. Maybe in other languages you see different types of data types. So first let's understand the data types. Based on the data type, the amount of memory system allocates will be different. Okay. So first data type, blob is one of the data type. So if you want the full form, binary large object, that is the full form. And the purpose of this one is to store the files, attachments. Right? Attachments are files. So file can be Excel file, notepad file, image, anything, right? So if you want to store the file information, we use blob, one of the data type. Okay. So next one, boolean. Boolean is one of the data type which accepts either true or false value. So either true or false value. In general, true or false values we don't give. So don't try to give like this, okay? Only so without any quotes, nothing, true or false. So those values we can assign to Boolean memory. So for that, okay. And also many people they are thinking, if you allocate the memory with the Boolean type and if you don't store any value in that, many people think that by default it stores false. That is wrong. Okay, so if you allocate the memory and if you don't assign any value, the default value is null. Null means nothing. Okay, so here blob is a token, boolean is a token, null is a token, everything is a token, right? But especially we have these keywords, identifiers like that, right? So the tokens which are provided by the programming platform, which we don't define, which is provided by programming platform, those tokens we call as keywords. So blob is provided by Salesforce. Boolean, it is in the platform. Boolean means it accepts true or false. Null means if there is nothing in the memory, it holds null. That is provided by platform. So all these things we call as keywords. Okay, so just understand. Now let's define one more. Okay, so date is one of the data type. It stores the date format. Okay, so date can be based on the location, based on the country. The date format will change. So in US, most of the times they follow like this, right? In India, we follow something. So it accepts the date format, okay? And date time, there is one more data type. Along with the date, it also capture time. So that is the data type, okay? And decimal is one of the data type. So decimal means number along with the decimal digits. Suppose age. So age in general, if you want accurate age, right? People say like this, years, right? So experience 3.6 years experience, something like that. So people mention we need these digits, right? While dealing with the currency. So such kind of numbers we call as decimal. Okay, so next one, double. Double is one of the data type. If you want to store the bigger decimal value, so sometimes even you see huge decimal value. That times we deal with exponential, right? So 5 exponential 57, something like this we see, right? So such kind of numbers, if you want to store, okay, so we use this double. Okay, so bigger decimal value. The purpose of this is, so there is a maximum capacity for the decimal memory. Beyond that, if you want to store the bigger decimal values, we can go with double, right? Something like this I'm giving. And next one, ID. So ID is one of the data type. Okay, so you know in Salesforce, whenever we create any record, either in standard object or the custom object, system generate the record ID automatically. Record ID can be either 15 digit or 18 digit, right? So this ID data type accepts either 15 or 18 digit ID. Okay, so that is the purpose, to store the record IDs. We use that. So next one, integer. Integer is also number, but without any decimal values, right? Suppose count 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't say 1.5 like that, right? So rounded value. So those things we call as integer. So next one, long. Long is bigger integer value, right? So huge integer value beyond the capacity of this integer memory, we go with the long. So next one, object. Object is one of the data type. So object is generic. Object data type is generic data type. That means sometimes we don't know which data we deal. It can be a number, it can be a boolean, it can be a text, anything. If you don't know, if you have such kind of situation, that time we go with the object data type, right? It accept number, it accept so suppose a boolean value also, right? So anything it accept, all types. So based on the need, we also use this object data type. Next, string data type. String is to store the text, starting with single character to the paragraph, right? So maybe in other programming languages, you see only for characters you see some other data type. To store the sentence, you see some other data type like that. But here, everything starting from single character to a paragraph, right? We use string data type. So all we need to do is the value should be enclosed within the single quotes here, right? Something like this you can keep on type and maintain. So that is string data type. Next one, time is one of the data type to store the time information. Okay, So these are the data types available. Based on these data types, let's define one of the memory statement and see how we can work with that. Okay. So suppose say now I want to define age. Age is which data type? Integer. Integer, if you take, we can only store 25, 27 like that. I want the decimal digits also 25.67 years like that. So like that, if you want decimal is right. So first we need to mention the data type, space. After that, we need to mention the memory name. This one can be anything, whatever you feel. As a developer, whatever we feel, we give this. So, but there are some naming conventions. We'll discuss that. So by following those naming conventions, so we have to use this, and I am giving like this. And also one statement ends with semicolon. Statement ends with semicolon. This is one of the statement. So it is allocating the memory for decimal type, and the memory location name is. Suppose I want to store experience. Suppose employee experience. Okay. So I'll say maybe experience like this. Right. This is one more. This is one more statement which is allocating memory for decimal type. And also while allocating the memory for the same type, okay, instead of defining like this separately, you can also say comma and this one. So both are of decimal type. With the decimal type, we are allocating two memories. One is to store the age, the other one is to store the experience. Okay, and also if you want, we can assign some default value. If you want to assign anything, we use equal, right? Equal to. So assigning the age, suppose say I am assigning the age as like this, right? And also I'll say maybe experience as something like this. Okay. So like that, we can also give some default values. And now I want to store the city and the country information. So what we need to do? So city means which data type? It is a text, means a string data type. So string. So city. So default value. So I want to give as Bangalore. Right? So like this. String values should be enclosed in single quotes, and just understand this won't work. Okay, double quotes won't work in Apex language. We have to use single quotes. Okay, and also one more maybe country equal to. So like that. Keep on. You can define the variables based on the. Define the memory based on the need. Okay. Now let's understand some terminology. Right. So everything is a token, right? In program, in statement, whatever you are seeing, everything is a token. So here decimal and the string, these are keywords. In the above statements, everything is a token, right? But in the above statement, decimal and the string, so those are keywords. Okay. And also here is experience. Who gave this? We as a developer, right? Suppose as a developer, if you want to give like this, you can also give like this, right? So it's based on the developer mindset and based on the experience, they give the names. So what we define, the token name which we define, those things we call as identifiers. So in the above statements, so age, experience, city, country, so all these are the identifiers. Okay. All those are identifiers. And if you see this diagram, you are also seeing operators. Operator means equal to is one of the operator. So in the above statement, equal to is the operator. And in the above statement, right, this one is literal. Right? So these numbers called as literals. String, these are the strings. Right? So that is terminology. So without knowing about terminology also we can work, but at least basic things we should know. So maybe these things we call as literals. So these things we call as string. Just understand. Now the naming conventions. Let's understand. So what are the rules we need to follow while giving the name? Okay? And also when we work day-to-day basis, this one what we call data type. This one at present so far I am saying name of the memory, but in practical this one we don't call as memory name, right? So this one is a identifier, right? But so on day-to-day life we don't say identifier. Okay, there is a different name. So if you read some books and all, right? So they'll say data member. Data member you can also call as data member. But variable is the one which we deal while working on day-to-day basis. So all these identifiers, whatever the names we gave, so those things here, age is a variable, city is a variable, country is a variable. Going forward, I'll refer as variable. The memory name we technically call as variable. Okay, if you don't know other things, that is fine. But this one you should know. So the name whatever we give for the memory, we give that as variable. Okay, just understand. Going forward, I'll say variable. Okay, so internally you should understand that is the name we given to the memory whatever we created. Okay. Yeah. Now let's understand the naming conventions. And also when we start newly, most of the people, so they are giving like this. Suppose say I want to store something in string value a. By seeing that what they are going to store, is there any chance of guessing? Don't know. Let a, x, y, z. But if someone reads this, they can understand that they are going to store some city name, right? So when you define any variable like this, if you define also it will work, but it is not good. As a fresher people, we work like this. But once after getting some experience in the projects, we have to give the meaningful name so that if other developers, if they see your code, they can understand what exactly you are going to store. Okay, so don't define like this. So that is just it is not like for sure we need to follow. If you don't follow also, program will save. Your program will save, you will see the results, but internally someone see your code. That time they don't feel that you are following some standards. So for that purpose. So technically that one we call as indentation. Indentation means following the program standards, programming standards. For example, if you remember, if you see here, whenever I define any variable data type, so I'm starting with capital. Remaining characters are small, but apex is case insensitive. This one, if I define in small letters also, it will work. Everything in capital letters also, it will work. But still, so as an experienced programmer, we have to follow some standards. Whatever the data type we define, we start with the capital letter, remaining characters with small letters, like that. Now, also whatever the name we give, for the memory, the variable name, right, should be, it should start with small letter, and after that each and every word, right, my first variable, right. So it is a technically we call this one as camel case. Camel case means small letter we start, and after that each and every word we keep with the capital. So these are some standards. Even though you don't follow everything, if you give in capital, everything you give in small also, it will work. But as a programmer, so as an experienced programmer, everyone follow these rules. Okay, so I recommend you to follow these rules. So and each and every word and with the capital letter like that. Okay, so these are for indentation. Indentation means programming standards for that. Okay, but for sure we need to follow some of the things. Let's understand those. The variable name can have number, but should not start with number, right? So suppose say string, and suppose I'm giving as like this, which is wrong, right? I can define like this. Okay, so variables can have a number, but it should not start with the number. So in between also you can have. Okay, so just understand, that is one thing. And also variables should not have any special characters except underscore. Any special characters except underscore. Okay, but string, right, underscore name, well, I'm giving like this, which is wrong. It can have underscore, but it should not start with underscore, right? You can define like this. So which is correct? And also variable name should not be the keyword. Variable name should not be the keyword. Okay, suppose say string and I'll say integer, which is wrong. We should not define like that, right? So but how you can define integer? It is correct, right? Because I'm appending something else, it won't be the keyword, right? So these are some of the rules, so we need to follow. So just make sure to follow this, and never give the variable name as the keyword name, and the underscore, so in between we have to use number, also in between we have to use. So like this, these are some of the rules, so we should follow these rules and define the state. Okay, so far any questions on understanding these, whatever we discussed? So any question? So by this time you should know, so what is the purpose of memory statement? When we deal with a program to store the data temporarily, we need memory. So for that we use a memory statement. So blindly we don't allocate same memory. Based on the type of data, system will allocate different type of memory. And for that we use data types. So we have to make the system understand that which data you are dealing. So based on that, system will allocate the corresponding memory. So we use data types. So we have list of data types, block, boolean, date, all these are the types. And so we defined one of the memory statement. So so data type, space, and the name of the variable. This one we call as identifier or data member, or frequently on day to day we call this as variable. Okay, so so also follow some naming conventions. We should follow some camel case naming convention for the variable name, and data type. So should start with capital and remaining character small. And also these naming conventions we need to follow. Okay, and also terminology. So all these things we call as keywords and all these things. So any questions? Let me know. Otherwise, we'll switch to other type. Before switching to other type of statement, we have listed all these data types, right? But again, data types, there are two types of data types: primitive data types and non-primitive data types. So whatever here we have listed, so all these are the primitive data types. So what is this primitive data type and what is that non-primitive data type? Let's understand that. So this one, non-primitive data type. So primitive data type, they say call by value. That means when you allocate the memory with the primitive type, okay, so directly it allocate the memory. So suppose if I say is, it allocate the memory, whatever the value we store, that value will be assigned directly in that memory. That is primitive data type, call by value. But non-primitive data type, so say as call by reference. Call by reference means once we allocate the memory, directly in that memory we don't store the data. The data will be somewhere in the database. It will always point the memory to that memory location in the database. It stores the reference, not the exact data. Data will be there somewhere. Only the location of the data, where the data present, that location it stored. So such kind of type we call as non-primitive data type. So what are the list of non-primitive data types, right? List of non-primitive data types. All standard objects. We have the standard objects. We have the custom objects. In Salesforce, object means table. The tables provided by Salesforce we call as standard objects. The tables which we created in custom way as per the requirement we call as custom objects. So we have standard objects like account, right, contact. So all standard objects, right, etc. So all these are the standard objects. And if you attended my admin, so we created some of the custom objects, course, applicant, and different custom objects we created, right? So all these things we can use as data types. These are the examples for the non-primitive data types. And also going forward, we develop the Apex program, right? The Apex program also we can define as non-primitive data type. And also in between we have S object, one of the generic data type. So what is S object? Suppose I don't know which information I am dealing, account or contact or course or applicant, any object, either standard object or custom object, at runtime I will be knowing. So I don't know for now what is the data I am dealing. So that time in a generic way to store the object information. It is not like object. We have object, right? Object can store anything without any limitation. Okay, but as object, only object information. Any object information. So object can be either standard or custom object, right? Suppose I want to store the class information, right? Suppose Apex class, Apex program, that information is not possible. This S object is generic to store either standard object or custom object information. So these are some data types you see. So standard objects can be all list of objects present in our Salesforce are custom objects, all custom objects which we created. Apex programs, we don't know as per the ARC, whatever the Apex programs they created, all those Apex programs they can use as data types. Okay, so these are the non-primitive data types. So when you allocate the memory, suppose let's allocate the memory for account, right? When you allocate the memory, in this memory, it will only store the reference memory location of the data. Exact data it won't store. And also, in general, we have defined the decimal primitive data type and directly assigning the value, right? So directly here you cannot assign the value. For non-primitive data types, for sure we need to allocate the memory by using new operator. New, we have to say new, and whatever the object name is that object name like this. So now it allocate the memory. Unless you mention like this, if you don't assign anything, by default this will hold null. Okay. Sorry, by default this will hold null. For sure, we have to allocate the memory for the non-primitive data types. For primitive data types, no need to allocate the memory. Just understand that point. So primitive, I can say, right, something like this. No need to so use new operator to allocate the memory. New is one of the operator. Okay. But this one we need to use. So just understand this. These are the basics. So we have the primitive data types, non-primitive data types. Mainly, maybe these things don't bother about this. So just understand this primitive data types so far whatever we discussed. Okay, and this is one type of statement which we see when you see some program. You see defining the variables. Okay. So next type is arithmetic and logical statements. And so far, any questions, please feel free to ask, because you have to understand the basics. Then only going forward, whatever I explain, easily you can understand. If you have any confusion in your mind, just let me know. All these are very basic things. So I don't mind to answer your questions, even though the basic questions. Okay. Yeah. So this one, arithmetic logical statements. Let's understand there are different types. So first, assignment operator. So assignment operator means equal. Right? Always right hand side value will be assigned to left hand side. We say LHS, RHS, right? So right hand side value will be assigned to left hand side value. Suppose there is a variable, I'll say integer, right? So number equal to 100 or 1000, right? So this value it is assigning to this one, right? Suppose say if you do in a reverse way, right? Suppose we should not say like this, right? It won't give any meaning. So this is just a simple thing. That is assignment operator. Now let's understand about the arithmetic operators. So we have different arithmetic operators, plus, minus, right? Plus, minus, star for multiplication, division for division, slash for division, right? And now I'll say, and also internally there are different types. We should also know that. We'll say unary operator, binary operator, and ternary operator. Unary operator means, so one value, one operator. Suppose say in general in programs you see something like this, right? So what is the meaning of I plus plus? Okay, so always it will increment the I value by 1. The internal meaning is I equal to I plus 1. That is the internal meaning, right? So I minus minus means the internal meaning is I equal to I minus 1. So like that. So one operator and one value. Okay, so this one we call as unary operator. In general, in programs we see this. And the binary operator means, suppose say I'm giving result equal to A plus B plus C plus something like this. So even though I have a big expression like that, always it deals with only two values. First, when it is adding, it add these two. After that, whatever the result comes, for that it will add this one. After that, whatever the result comes, for this it will add this one. Right? It's like that. And also, I want to subtract this. Now, how it works? From left side it will execute, or right side it execute. There is a confusion, right? So for that, we should know about operator precedence. That means system give priority to which one first, which one next. If you don't want to bother about that, right? Simply, blindly, what we do, if you give like this, all these things it will calculate separately, and finally the result it will subtract, right? So same thing, if you give like this, the meaning will change, right? It will add these two and subtract this one and add that one. So I mean, so like that, by using these brackets we can play with that. So no need to learn about again operator precedence, the order. So as soon as you know this, how we can give. Okay. So my point here is, even though we have big expression like this, always it is with so two values and one operator. So the final result you will see one value. This type is called binary operator. Okay. Next, ternary operator. Ternary operator deals with a condition, and the two operators you see and the three values you see. Condition. If the condition is executed, it executes some part. So just for our understanding, I am typing like that. So it will execute one part. So here we give some condition. The condition is true. We can write some statement here, statement or expression, whatever as per the requirement. That statement will be executed. If this is false, and in case of false, this will be executed. Yeah. Do you have any questions? I think so. Any questions, please let me know. But if you don't have any questions, please go on mute. So otherwise, so it won't be good, right? So let's, yeah, ternary operator. So let's take one example. Say age, right? Suppose age is greater than 25, right? So I'll execute one statement, right? Otherwise, I'll execute some other statement, right? So maybe age is greater than 25, so I want to return true. Otherwise, I want to return false. I can do like this, right? Suppose say one more example, A greater than B, right? So if A is greater than B, I want to assign the A value to B. Otherwise, I'll assign B value to Yes. Right. So like that. So here in this case, it is a statement. In this case, this is an expression. Right. So like that, we deal with the ternary operator. So these are the things. So mostly we deal with this, and this one also mainly while using the loops we use this. This one, so most of the people are not knowing. So just understand this. Okay. So next type of operators. So I think we don't have time. So about that we discuss tomorrow. So next type we have the relational operators, and we have logical operators. So about these things we discuss tomorrow. We continue with the all remaining types, and after understanding the basics, slowly we discuss about all the advanced topics also. So far, so any questions? Let me know. Anyone? Any questions?
Yeah. Hello, Sinu.
Yeah. Yes.
In data types, instead of using remaining data types, can we use only object data type? It will accept any data.
Sorry, can you come again? Instead of using
Remaining data types, we can only use object data type. Is it possible?
so, it's possible, but ultimately every time you need to type cache, not into specific types. Suppose say here I say object, yes, it will accept everything, right? But ultimately, while using, suppose I want to perform some calculation, right? I want to add this age and experience. That time, system expect a specific type because object is generic, so it cannot treat these as numbers. Right? That time again, you need to convert into so number type and again do the calculation. Right? That's why if it is not needed, we don't blindly use object. Right? So really, if there is a situation, there will be some situations we don't know which data type we deal. So that time only, if you use, it is recommended. Right? Unnecessarily, we don't use. We'll be seeing all such kind of requirements. That time you will understand when exactly we need to go with the object type. Okay, so yeah. Any other questions? Anyone? Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.